It is Friday, the 9th of May on 2025. And of course, a lot is going on in the world. And we'll be talking about that here on World Edition and all along those lines. Fogs of war thicken as India and Pakistan trade blame and accusations. So, India and Pakistan, the first drone war between nuclear armed neighbors. So, those tensions are escalating as they exchange accusations of aerial attacks. So, that is something that is going on in the world and in what's happening in the world news. Russia holds its 80th anniversary Victory Day parade on Red Square. China's Xi stands with Putin at Russia's Victory Day parade, and Russia exudes confidence at parade marking 80 years since the Nazi defeat. So Putin, Xi, and friendly world leaders celebrate Russia's Victory Day at the Moscow parade. Uh, the park ranger who alerted the world to Sycamore Gap's tree fate. So, two men guilty of felling the world famous Sycamore Gap tree, Aberrell thuggery. Two men are found guilty of cutting down that beloved tree, and that was reported in USA Today. So, definitely that's something that's in the news as well. And amid the blockade, Trump and Israel mull a divisive aid plan for Gaza. So that's something that's in the news as well. U.S. confirms plans for private firm to deliver Gaza aid despite UN alarm. So aid groups voice alarm as the U.S. pushes Israeli plan for Gaza assistance. And 300 to 400 Turkish drones used by Pak last night to target India. So definitely that's something that folks are talking about as well. And of course, a lot of folks are talking about the U.S. Cardinal Prevost, who was elected Pope Leo the 14th, first American pontiff. So that is something that folks are looking at. And Pope Leo faces a packed schedule and inherits many events from Francis. And already folks are seeing that he's got some ties to both Villanova and Chicago. As a matter of fact, I just saw that he was a White Sox fan, apparently. So, like I said, there's definitely some strong American background in this new Pope, even though they're saying that he is maybe got some very strong views about the way that America treats its immigrants, but apparently he's got maybe some more moderate and conservative views about the church and its stance on LGBTQIA rights and all along those lines. So it'll be interesting to see what folks' views are on the Pope and all along those lines. So we do have a new Pope in the UK to announce fresh sanctions on Putin's shadow fleet. So that is something else that is being reported in the news as well. So UK sanctions director of oil trading groups over Russian ties. And definitely that is something that is going on in the news as well. And Ukraine says it uncovered a Hungarian espionage network. Two suspects have been arrested. Ukraine says it has busted Hungarian spy ring collecting military data. So definitely that's something going on as they arrested spies working for NATO's Hungary. And after relentless U.S. bombing campaign, Yemen's Houthis are the biggest victors of a truce, according to the Times of Israel. And the Trump operation against the Houthis cost more than $1 billion. So seafarers are stranded off the Yemen port and exit after U.S. Houthi ceasefire deal. So there is a ceasefire deal in that particular situation. And U.S. journalists are reacting to India's Operation Sindoor in Bawalpur, where Masad Asir's brother Raf beheaded her colleague Daniel Pearl. So that's definitely something going on in the news as well. And Europe is commemorating the 80th anniversary of the Nazis' defeat. So definitely Europe alone and in shock on VE Day. So this is definitely the 80th anniversary, and Britain's Second World War veterans are dying out. But definitely there's still some folks that can remember what was going on in that space. Israeli airstrikes decimate the last restaurant in Gaza City in a nightmarish bloodbath. So that's something that people are talking about as the IDF says it hit over 60 terror targets in Gaza, struck Hamas targets in the Morag corridor. So that's something that people are talking about as well. So let me see what's going on in the U.S. Then I'll bring in our esteemed fellow panelists and see what they've got to say about a number of things going on in that space. As a matter of fact, coming back to the Pope, in the BBC, there was a notice that said, I can see Pope Leo the 14th coming to the UK. And that was from the Bishop of Salford. And new Pope apparently has some Creole roots in New Orleans. So apparently he's got some roots with that Creole culture. So like I said, he's got a lot of different American roots and all in that space. And David H. Soder, the Republican justice who allied with the court's liberal wing, passed away at the age of 85. So definitely that's something that is in the news as well. And Trump's tax cuts are set to shrink after the GOP flinches at deep spending cuts. So a fight over Medicaid cuts is threatening the GOP's plans for Trump's big, beautiful bill. So definitely we'll see how this all goes and all along those lines. And Trump suggests cutting China tariff rate, teases many trade deals in the hopper. So Trump, in a major concession, says the tariffs on China should be 80%, but will leave it up to Bessent and all along those lines. So definitely it looks like stocks rise after Trump hints that many trade deals are close. So it looks like there might be a spike in that way. And Trump names Jeanine Pirro, Fox News host, as interim U.S. attorney for D.C. So it definitely looks like another Fox person is getting into the office with President Trump. So she's got a job lined up as well because she just got named in that post. And Detroit automakers are fuming after Trump's first trade deal is giving some preferential treatment. Looks like it's preferential treatment to some folks there in the UK. So that's not making the folks in Detroit all that happy. And in the Tyre Nichols case, an out-of-town jury heard a familiar police defense. So Memphis police officers were found not guilty of all state charges in the Tyre Nichols beating death. So the next step for the Tyre Nichols family is a $550 million civil lawsuit that could bankrupt the city. So that's something else that's going on as well. And President Trump fires the Librarian of Congress, Carla Hayden. So he just fired the Librarian of Congress, a woman by the name of Carla Hayden. And Fetterman doubts explode into Capitol Hill firestorm. So inside Senator John Fetterman's office, according to the Inquirer, has been canceled meetings, skipped votes, and an outburst with Pennsylvania teachers. So lots going on in that way. And the FAA announces new air traffic control system in hopes of taming busy skies. So they're planning to overhaul the agent air traffic system. So Trump is touting the rebuilding and modernization of U.S. air traffic control, and he blasts Buttigieg for having no clue. And Duffy asked Congress to fund a huge fix for America's aviation system minus a price tag. So we'll see how this all plays out as well. And Donald Trump proposes to raise income taxes on wealthy Americans. So he's revived that push for higher taxes on the rich. Trump says he's okay with Republicans raising taxes on the rich. So Trump's first vice president urged his old boss against raising taxes on wealthy Americans. So we'll see how this all goes. And I've got Nick with me, and Lee Newton Rhodes is in the house. I haven't seen him in a while. But we'll see what Nick's got to say about a number of these stories. What did you say or hear about the Pope? I hear he's a Chicago White Sox fan. You got that voice thing going on again. So I don't know what's going on. I might have to go out and back in because he's got that Mickey Mouse voice thing going on once again. So we'll wait to see when he comes back, and maybe Lee Newton will come on camera, and I'll have some conversation with him as well. Because, like I said, a lot's going on in the world and around the world. So we'll see what folks' views of a number of these stories are that are taking place, including the new Pope and all along those lines. So I'll be coming in and hearing what folks have to say about these new situations and all along those lines. So we'll see if Nick is able to talk regularly.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear Nick now.
Can you hear me? Yeah, okay, good. All right. Well, let me talk about the European Union and victory and Europe Day, whatever, in Spain where I'm at. They didn't yeah, they don't care. They didn't participate in the war. They were neutral. So what happened was Hitler was crazy. He came down, oh, we gave you so much money. We helped you, Franco, join us in our fight against the Allies. And Francisco Franco goes, oh, we don't have the arms for that. And he made Hitler mad several times. Hitler came over to Spain, trying to recruit Spain into the war. And Spain said no mas. And of course, the rest is history. He obviously they were smart enough not to join the wrong side. Now, Russia, I don't feel sorry for. The Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, they divided Poland. They made a deal with the devil to divide Poland. Stalin invaded Poland. And of course, it opened up the floodgates for, Germany to invade Russia. So, Russia got what they deserved. They had no business invading Poland. But this is typical Russia, might makes right. So they invaded Poland. And then Germany goes, if you invade Poland, we'll invade you. And now they're doing Victory in Europe Day, like they're doing a victory lap. When everyone knows it was the United States of America through the Murmansk convoy that sent huge amounts of arms to Russia so they could actually defend themselves. We saved Russia's bacon, basically. Otherwise, they would be speaking German, and not Russian anymore. So, no, they don't deserve any victory.
Well, they don't deserve anything, but we
United States of America.
We're the ones. The United States of America and all along those lines. I was wondering if there was any news from Bangladesh about the new Pope. Me and Rick were talking about that briefly yesterday in an abbreviated version of World Politics. But are the folks in Bangladesh paying any attention to this new Pope, the first ever American Pope? And apparently he's got some ties to the White Sox, and now he's got some ties to Creole roots and everything like that. So, and then he spent some time in Peru, so he's got ties to Latin America as well. So, are they even thinking about the Pope in Bangladesh? Is there any sort of Latin population?
Yeah, I think
Catholic population.
Yeah, this Pope. I think the last Pope, he visited Bangladesh, and I think that our country chief, Dr. Muhammad Yunus, he also visited his last funeral and all of the things. And we have many Christian communities in Bangladesh and in South Asia. And beside that, right now we have a lot of tensions because of this Pakistan and India wire. I want to share some of my view regarding these issues because Bangladesh is very close for them, and Bangladesh people has a lot of tension for these particular issues. Especially 9th May 2025, tensions between India and Pakistan has escalated significantly, brings to nuclear arm. Both of the country has nuclear weapons, neighbors to bring open conflict. And there are some overview I just want to share because this is very interesting. I think global politics, and beside that, there are billions of people. They are in communities. It's really happened. The war, especially nuclear war, between these two countries, millions of people may die. So, April 2022, a terrorist attacks in Pahalgam, India administrative Kashmir, result in death around 26 civilians, including terrorists. India attributes the attack of Pakistan-based military group, specifically Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed. Pakistan deny any involvement in this incident. Besides that, Bangladesh also has tensions because the previous regime change by the students and the new communities, and there are lot of media misinformation and disinformation happening from India. They're heavily sharing disinformation and misinformations from India about Bangladesh, about the fundamentalists, Islamic fundamentalists, and all of the things. Even though Dr. Muhammad Yunus, he is a very good friend of Western communities, and I believe that he is doing some economic activities which is relevant for reformations. So the military escalations, if you observe it properly, you can find is the relations on May 7. India launched operations Sindoor. Sindoor, the Indian women always put it in their head, the married women. A series of precision airstrike target 9 locations in Pakistan and Pakistan administrative Kashmir. These strike focus on aligned terrorist infrastructures in different areas. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So we hear you. Bangladesh used to be Pakistan. When in the 50s, there was Pakistan and there was East Pakistan, which didn't work because you got two Pakistans divided by 1,000 miles. And in 1972, East Pakistan became Bangladesh. So yeah, you guys are deeply embroiled in the regional.
Yeah, and honestly speaking, this India and Pakistan religious-based fights, it's happened after 1947 in several times. 1971 is another part of these things. And what I see, the military escalation right now happening, drone warfare and cyber measures happening, diplomatic fallout is happening, nuclear concern is happening, and we find lot of people actually very very concerned about these things. So that's why I strongly request the global communities, we need global peace. There are a lot of problem we have in our countries. We have education problem, we have healthcare problem, we have energy related problem, we have water related problems, what we are trying to solve with this Ganga and Padma related problems. So we should not focus on this wire and this kind of things. It will be another dangerous initiative if it happen. But what I understand, the Trump administrations do not want wire. That is the things I like Trump administration more, and he has some comments that he requests India to stop and go for wire and all of the things. So we need good global leader who can control all of the tensions and all of the things. Uh, that is my view about this Bangladesh, India, and Pakistan situations. Religion is good, but practice religion in all of the area and use it for hate each others is very bad. I cannot. We can be very good for Jewish community. We can be very good for Hindus. We can be very good for Christians, Buddhists, and all of the people. Global peace is important for us.
Yeah,
Thank you.
definitely, no problem. Global peace is very important. There's no doubt about that and everything. Lee Newton Rose was on, and he had a question, I think, for Nick, but it definitely falls into everything because he was saying neutrality never helps the victims, only the tormentors. And so I think he was talking about the whole notion of Spain being neutral during that time of the war, some 80 years ago, and all along those lines. So he did bring that up and all in that space. Jacoby, it seems like we've got a Pope who's a sports fan because I just heard that he's a Chicago White Sox fan and that he might have some other fandom going on as well. He went to Villanova, and we know they've got a strong basketball program and have for decades. So it looks like he might have some interesting views. That they're saying that he might be have different views and strong views against America and its immigration views, and he said that even when he was a Cardinal. But I guess he's got more moderate views on the LGBTQI community.
I heard that he plays a lot of tennis, which is good because that means he's pretty healthy and maybe we'll get a long-time Pope.
Yep, that's quite possible. Jacoby, what's your take? Did you hear anything about the Pope and what you've heard about the new Pope as well?
That he's in the similar vein as the last Pope, and he's just a tad bit more moderate. I mean, he has some of the same positions. So I think it's just going to be an interesting situation because of he will be the icon that kind of galvanizes a lot of people in the U.S. to be similar to. And you have the polar opposite of what's going on with Trump. So now our society in the U.S. is being pulled in two different directions, polar opposite directions in every way. So we're going to see how this plays out because people are already looking at him through a political lens, when before it was overseas. You didn't look at him as a political lens. You didn't have that direct connection. But now, yeah, it's just hey, does he or does he not like Trump? There are already a bunch of people, the MAGA wing is already going after him for his positions and different things. So it's going to be interesting, really interesting, especially now.
And he knows all the minutia of American politics, where a pope from another country wouldn't be as familiar with all the players and everything. Whether he'll address like any of this stuff, like, you know, trans stuff, is he going to wade into that kind of stuff? Who knows?
Well, that's where I think it's going to be interesting, Rick, because as a person of the church and a person of the cloth, these things that aren't inherently political became political issues, and that's what we're going to deal with. Like, poverty was not inherent. Well, feeding the hungry wasn't really supposed to be a political issue. It was supposed to be a right and wrong issue based on religion, and that's a political issue in our day and age now. Dealing with LGBTQIA rights and stuff like that. That wasn't inherently a political issue. That's a human rights issue, which deals with the church. But now in our politics, it's a political issue.
Well, I mean, more than anything, like the trans thing is logistical. You know, what do you do about bathrooms, and you know, what do you do about sports? And it's something that could be figured out, especially with sports, on a case-by-case basis, because there are so few competitive trans athletes. It's the Republicans who said the Democrats are trying to make the whole world trans, which is horseshit, but it gets them a lot of votes. So yeah, they made it political.
And check this out, go even deeper. He is Peruvian, so he's Latin. Where are we not accepting people from? South America, or the Southern Hemisphere. So now you're taking the whole immigration issue to a new level. And again, it's not inherent dealing with individuals escaping treacherous areas and trying to find a better life. I mean, it's not truthfully a political thing. We've made it into a political football, but now it's a reality on both levels. And now, this brown-skinned individual who speaks Spanish and speaks all these other languages, after Trump goes out and says, well, truckers have to speak English, is he now going to force the Pope to say something like that?
Strategically, if the Pope's smart, and I assume he is, he won't. He'll deal with world stuff before he deals with American stuff, so that because the world doesn't get the idea that he's just going to be focused on American stuff.
Well, I think it'll be better if he doesn't respond to Trump, because everything he does is going to be counter to what Trump does, and that's just a natural thing, not a hey, he's going after Trump thing. Because that's why I'm thinking it's going to be really interesting, because the teachings of the church is all about feeding the hungry, helping those in need, like the immigrants who are trying to escape areas and stuff like that. All that's antithetical to what Trump is talking about.
Trump has already lied about saying that the new Pope's Vatican has already called him, saying, let's get together. Which is just like knee-jerk bullshit right out, you know.
Well, he's also said Trump has also said that apparently only 9 people crossed the border, which I find hard to believe. But I did see that was something he reported a couple of days ago, and all along those lines. So he did report that there was only 9 people that crossed the border, and like I said, I find that as a hard number to even fathom and believe.
Wait, you mean Trump is saying that there was a day under his presidency when he's knocked immigration down so much that only 9 people were caught trying to cross?
Well, in reality, the thing is, having this Pope is just part of the agenda to make America great again. Realize that J.D. Vance went over there, okay, which was good for the administration. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you have an American Pope. That didn't surprise me at all. And little Johnny in Canada, if you're watching this, because these liberals, they don't understand. When I put MAGA, I said, look, don't you know what just happened? This is part of making America great again. But the progressives and the liberals and the anti-Trump haters, they don't want to do that. All they want to do is honestly, America's bad. They want to say Trump's bad. But
here's
that's
the
not true.
irony.
What you're seeing is a new light on America that has never been shown before. It's called the Trump America. And so
here's the irony.
I'm grateful that Donald Trump is in office, and grateful that
Nick,
now we have an American Pope.
Here's the irony of what you just stated. People, yes, are going to be happy that the Pope is American. The reason being is, yes, what you said is that it will, quote unquote, make America great again. But why was America looking bad? It's because of Trump. America had been or started to become isolated from these other countries. People thought all Americans were bad individuals. People were starting to really condemn America based on Trump and, yes, your MAGA wing. So with the Pope being American, this is where the world is going to be split, as well as individuals in the U.S. are going to be split, because everything the church talks about is antithetical to what Trump is pushing, what MAGA is pushing. So that is where you are correct. America was looking bad, not due to anything else but Trump. And so now with an American Pope, it actually brings America into a better light because of he is different. He is antithetical to hating everybody. He is antithetical to immigrants are criminals. He is antithetical to everything Trump is pushing.
All right, let's get off of the Pope for a second and talk about Fox News. Trump is appointed, I believe, his 23rd, maybe somebody was exaggerating, member of Fox News to a post in his cabinet. He just named Judge Jeanine from the 5 to be the top prosecutor for the DOJ in Washington, D.C. So she hasn't been a prosecutor in 15 years? She's been on Fox. She gets made fun of because she's kind of got resting drunk face. She appears to be intoxicated a lot. She claims she doesn't drink at all, and she's never been charged with a DUI. She just happens to look like she's shit-faced frequently.
It doesn't matter. The anti-Trumpers were going to hate no matter who
Honestly,
Trump appoints. And it doesn't matter what Jacoby says. When Trump became head of the United States of America, it's not like the people said, oh, we hate America now. No, they respected America, Jacoby, as opposed to the giveaway Joe Biden, the slow, sleepy Joe Biden, the do-nothing Joe Biden for 4 years. People were tired of it. That's why they threw him out. And the progressive agenda, the thing is, the rest of the world doesn't follow those progressive agendas.
Hold on a second.
Women's sports. Go ask Bangladesh. They don't want trans people around. Low competing in women's sports. But when Trump did this, he got the respect of all these countries. Not what you say, not what you anti-Trumpsters say. This is the reality.
So just to point out. No, and you couldn't even say that with a straight face. That's why you ran away. No, we lost respect amongst the globe. Hence the reason that's why our tourism has dropped off a cliff. People are not coming here anymore. People don't want to spend money here anymore. Also, in terms of Judge Jeanine Pirro, Rick, she hadn't done a case in years. But the problem is she went on Fox News and became a talking head just for Donald Trump and the MAGA wing. And then she started doing all these conspiracies, all was it election denialism and all the other stuff. She's unqualified based on just that alone. So she's just another Pam Bondi, just an older version who's just going to do whatever Trump says, say whatever Trump wants to hear, and make sure that she chases down whatever conspiracy and sues anybody Trump wants. So no, she's unqualified for a myriad of reasons. Had she not become a Trumper and a diehard, I'm going to do whatever Trump says, and I'm going to cape for Trump no matter what, she possibly could have been qualified, but now, no, not even close.
Hey, quick question, and if Nick's still there, it's a question for him as well because it's come up on this show several times and everything along those lines. But apparently, Donald Trump is saying that he's all right with raising the income tax on wealthy Americans, and I know that was an issue that was out there, and there's even been that talk of no new taxes on the our own version of the oligarchy and everything like that. But apparently Trump's saying he's okay with Republicans raising taxes on the rich. So what is your take on this? Because now he's pushing for higher taxes on the rich and everything like that. So you got to...
Good if true. So he wants to push for an increase in the highest tax rate for people making over $2.5 million a year from 37% to 39.6%. Not a huge rate increase, but also I've read that he's saying it, but knowing that will fail, that Congress won't do anything. So he can look like a good guy to everybody making less than $2.5 million a year, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's a showpiece because check this out. This is how crazy it is. And this is what's funny about Nick when he comes in and tries to spout off the talking.
Well, Nick's just trying to get you worked up.
I know. And so it's just funny but he does actually say talking points that are out there, which, I find hilarious. For example, when they have the talking point, and this all wraps into the whole higher taxes thing. When they talk about the tariffs, Trump wants to use tariffs to fill the gap of taking away taxes. That's not going to happen because that's impossible. The math just does not work. So he says all these extra things like, hey, we're going to raise taxes, because then that's going to make people, argue about, and forget that the man really can't negotiate with the tariffs, because how is he going to pay for his tax cuts that he wants to give? How's he going to pay for, hey, no tax on tips and no tax on all this other stuff that he keeps saying that he wants to do? So the math isn't adding up. He's adding $4.5 trillion to the national debt, which they said they weren't going to do in the first place. But it's actually going to be a lot more, because you can't pay for what you're actually coming up to pay for. So it's just ridiculous talking points. The GDP has dropped, and if it drops 2 years, or 2 consecutive quarters, and we're going to be technically in a recession. If it stays where it is, then we're in stagflation. So therefore, our economy is struggling based on what Trump is doing, and so he's saying all these things to do this whole showpiece.
I don't think we've had.
Interestingly enough, check this out. Remember when Ronald Reagan came into office? Ronald Reagan was that's one of the people that they talk about. Oh, well, he did such a great job in terms of dropping taxes. Well, Ronald Reagan also raised taxes right after that to help balance his budget, because he found out that he cannot pay for the things that he wants to do just by dropping taxes. Well, Trump just doesn't understand that, so he's making a showpiece.
Well, speaking of showpieces and everything like that, there was another story that I wanted to get to as well, Rick, and everything, because apparently the court has ruled that Alabama redistricted and intentionally discriminated against African Americans. So there is a victory even for the liberal side, because Alabama apparently purposely diluted black votes with congressional plan, is what the court has found. So this is a redrawn Alabama electoral map that is saying that
which court, the Supreme Court or a lower court?
Let me double check. I believe that it says the court rules Alabama violated Voting Rights Act in drawing.
They get red states get ruled, and some blue states get ruled against a lot, and then they just ignore it. So I don't know that this will lead to any changes.
And I'm getting ready to try to tell you which court it was and everything like that. It was a panel of 3 federal judges. So it was a federal court.
That's probably a circuit court. So it hasn't made it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court and some other courts, they don't like messing with districting, because it's a highly mathematical thing, and lawyers are scared by math. And they're like, we can't help you come up with a system to be fair in this. So we're just going to step away from it.
Well, I got to go with some sort of system, because apparently Alabama makes up about African Americans make up about 25% of that state population. So there's definitely got to be some reworking going on, because there's some areas, like I'm thinking Birmingham and others, that it's probably even a higher percentage, and all along those lines. So, and I know it's impacted North Carolina as well. So yeah, they've got to figure out what they're going to do with this gerrymandering, which is what that amounts to, and everything like that. I know we've talked in the past about Elon Musk and everything, and I see we've got Nick back, our favorite supporter of Trump and Elon Musk. But apparently, the Trump officials seek to bring the first white African refugees in the U.S. next week. So we're complaining about the folks from Latin America, but we're granted asylum to 54 white African South Africans. So these are the first African granted refugee status due to arrive in the U.S. So what is your take on this? Apparently, we're bringing in some folks from South Africa that I guess are claiming that they are refugees, and all along those lines.
So they were the oppressors before.
Yeah,
they were running apartheid, and then then they have a new government that is more racially fair. So now they feel oppressed. So Musk, being himself a white South African, is happy to bring in the former oppressors.
No, what are you talking about? The thing is, what happened is the same thing that happened in Israel. The oppressors became the oppressed, and it switched. And so the thing is, the reason they need to leave South Africa is the same reason the people in the Palestinians, the Gazians, are leaving Israel. Is that the thing is, the new government is just out of control. Look at what they've done. You know, first of all, they're anti-American. They joined. So they hate us to begin with, and then they hate the Afrikaners too. So, you know, the thing is, you can't be surprised that we're going to grant them asylum. It's the right thing to do. It's almost like
let me help you out real quick.
And people in Gaza are oppressed the right to move here, because this is definitely an oppressed group. And I have personal knowledge of this, because I've hired South Africans who say the thing is horrible for them over there. So the best thing they can do is leave, and I'm glad they're leaving. So they're coming to the United States. I have no problem with it.
Let me help you out real quick, because everything you said was kind of a fallacy.
No, it isn't a fallacy. You have no personal knowledge of it, Jatoni. I do. My executive secretary, was actually from Durban, South Africa. You don't even know where it is.
Just to point out, Nick.
Go on.
So talk over me, because I pointed out that you're telling
the progressive line is not.
So let me point out, Nick. You just gave an anecdote because you know somebody. You know what? I know
several people.
So hey, we're equal on that level playing field.
The other guy probably shouldn't have come here.
Okay, Nick. Just again, you just gave an anecdote and said that hey, you know everything about it. I know somebody too. So look, we're on a level playing field here. So now let's get actually taking away the anecdotes and go back to the actual history of the situation. You just went down a tirade saying that, well, hey, this is like the oppressed becoming the oppressors, and then tried to use Gaza and Israel as an example. When were the Palestinians the oppressors? It never happened. And what's going on right now in Gaza and Israel is completely separate from what's going on actually in South Africa. And in South Africa, Rick brought up the point of how the government has switched and become more equal. And that's where people started.
Yeah, but I'm sure they don't like they're mean to these guys. But let's take it at face value. Hold on, let me just say.
I want to finish my point real quick. Rick, let me.
What's unusual is it's unusual for refugees to be welcomed at the airport by U.S. dignitaries.
Rick,
and so this anti-immigration guy Trump is welcoming the white people when they show up.
And this is where I'm getting to, because actually, Rick, what you said right there, they rolled out the red carpet for these individuals coming from South Africa that were supposedly oppressed. But even taking Nick at his face value, you know where they told the people of Palestine to go? They didn't tell them to come to the U.S. They didn't welcome them. They're refugees. They're in the middle of a war zone. Did they say the same thing about the individuals coming from South America? Anybody? No, they're all brown skinned. But again, they're sending them to prisons. Are they doing that to any of the refugees coming from South Africa? All the white people? No. So Nick, when you sit here and try and say these things as if nobody else knows or nobody else sees. You got to realize that other people have different perspectives and actually may have a better perspective than you do on this situation. That's why I'm trying to point out to you, truthfully, what's going on is very, very wrong. And it goes to solidify the position that a lot of people have already put out there, that Black people, brown people, minorities are not welcome in the country right now.
Well, obviously, you're trying to turn it into a racial thing. It has nothing to do with it, Jacoby. What happens to deal with it is South Africa a member of BRICS or no? Answer yes or no. Are they a member of BRICS, Jacoby?
Are they just white people coming?
No. I'm asking the government of South Africa. Government, are they a member of BRICS, Jacoby? Yes or no?
What brown refugees got the red carpet?
You're ignoring the question. See, this is typical progressive. This is the reason your guys will continually
That question is pointless.
I'm asking a very simple question, and I can't get a simple answer.
Irrelevant.
Are they a member of BRICS?
That question is irrelevant.
Okay, all you have to then answer it and just say they are, but I believe it's irrelevant. That's what you have to do. But you can't do that because you want to tote the progressive line.
We'll play your game. We'll play your game.
The truth is they are a member of BRICS.
We'll play your game.
They are actually antithetical to everything the United States stands for. And of course, we're going to welcome their refugees.
Nick,
we probably welcome the refugees from India, China, Russia. There's oppression there. So this is definitely the right thing to do. But of course, Trump did it. It's wrong.
No, Nick, have you welcomed any refugees from India? Because India is part of the BRICS.
Well, I don't think we have refugees from India, but we have a lot of.
That's right. Because they're brown skinned.
But we don't have a lot of refugees.
Yeah, there are no refugees from India because they're brown skinned.
There are very few refugees from India because what they do is they apply correctly to get their immigration card. So the reason you're having problems with the people of Latin America is they believe they can just cross the border and come over here. Well, guess what?
South America is not true. People from South Africa just can't.
And then makes it even worse that you've seen the reason he's deporting
India just can't cross
people yelling and screaming in Columbia University. They believe they can come here and protest and bring all their garbage over here. And the answer is no, it's not true. If you're a guest, like I'm a guest here in Spain, I'm not going to go down to the Spanish government and tell them how bad they are. I'd expect my visa to revoke. The Russians go, oh no, please don't revoke.
Nick and Jacoby, hold on a second. Hold on a second. I got to come back to the other thing that you brought up earlier as well.
Mark, don't change the subject yet because I just want to point out real quick. Nick's game was it's not about race, but let's talk about it's about BRICS. And these are refugees coming out of BRICS. So Nick is stating that India doesn't have any refugees and they would get the same treatment as the white people did from South Africa. He's also stating that China has no refugees and they would get the same treatment from the same treatment as they did from South Africa. All these things you're throwing up as excuses, but don't want to face the realities of the situation. And that's where the problem is, Nick. You try to bring up BRICS, but don't want to admit that there are other refugees out there because there are. So,
you're right. Chinese refugees, which are crossing the border illegally.
Not understand.
Let me bring up 250,000 white refugees who are facing the removal of their protected status. These are 250,000 refugees from the Ukraine war, who are in the U.S. and Trump has been threatening to remove their protected status and send them back.
Oh, really? And are the people of Ukraine, are they black? Are they all black?
Hold on. Even better. That's a great example.
Wait, let's have Rick answer this question, please.
No, hold on, Nick.
Are these people from Ukraine that Donald Trump is threatening to revoke their visa, are they all Latin Americans and are they all black?
Nick, Nick,
Rick,
hold on.
answer the question, please.
Okay, we'll answer that
No,
question.
I just
We
said
already
you're
know.
white. I don't
Yeah,
need
Oh,
so
they're
Nick-
right. Oh,
Nick-
so Jacoby, your argument just fell
No,
apart.
Nick.
no,
Nick,
but
It's not a
it's
racial
Nick,
thing. I don't even want it to be a
Nick,
racial thing.
Nick,
Oh, boy, if I could
oh,
just make it a
Nick.
racial thing, I could
Nick,
win
here we
this
go.
argument. But you
Nick,
just
that's a
lost.
perfect example, though.
You
That's
just
a perfect
lost.
example. Let me explain why that's a perfect example. As
Yeah.
Rick just pointed out, he's threatened. Now, who's been going to the El Salvador prison? Who's already being deported on planes? Are we talking about the people who are threatened, or actually the brown people that he's already sending?
And what about the Ukrainians?
Has he sent them? No.
He threatened it.
What did he do with the Ukrainians, Rick?
He threatened them.
He threatened them. I think there's still,
So
for the time being,
Who's being sent?
Just as an executive.
Who's being sent, Nick? Is it the brown people or the individuals that you just ranted and raved about that he's threatening?
I believe it is the brown people that
Thank you.
have
We're done here. Thank you,
convictions for
Counselor.
criminal
Case.
that are
We're done.
criminally convicted
We're
and
done.
members of gangs.
Well, hold on a second. Well, one, we don't know that they're members of gangs and everything.
No,
Trump doesn't want
no,
Some of them
to-
have not been members of gangs.
Doesn't matter.
They're
Hey,
not the
Nick,
members of
Nick, I
gangs.
got another question for you because it comes back to your other issue that you were all hyped on earlier and everything. But the other thing that he's doing lately, not just Trump, but the other parts of the administration, is that they are having the immediate removal of up to 1,000 trans military members. Last time I checked, it doesn't matter whether you trans, gay, straight, or whatever, as long as you can fire a gun. Isn't that the purpose of the military? So why do we have to eliminate these people out of the military? Because I thought that didn't have anything to do with defending the country or firing a gun. But to explain to me why the Trump administration is moving to house 1,000 trans people from the military.
You're asking me this question, Mark?
Yeah. Yes.
Do I look like I'm a representative of the U.S. government and the Trump administration? So I can't answer that question. I would prefer that you ask the people from the Trump administration that question. Okay? But not me. I'm here to make comments on Jacoby when he gets out of line. That's all. And I make comments a lot here because he gets out of line a lot here. So you know, the thing is, the trans people, at least from my opinion, in terms of them working in the military, I don't see any problem with it. I had them working for my company. I don't see any problem with that. I do have a problem with trans athletes who are men who compete in women's sport. But not only do I have it, and Uncle Little Johnny, if you're watching this, because you'll never be convinced, because you're a Canadian liberal, you know, through and through. You've got Canadian blood liberal. You just can't get rid of it. Look, nearly 70% of Americans think that's wrong too. And it's quite simple because you just can't get away from your basic biological structure. And not only that, when the trans men's come in, they just beat the tar out of women. And the thing is, there's no man in America, no white blood man in America wants to watch a man beat up a woman. It just ain't going to happen. So that when they do that in sports, and then the progressives go, it's okay, you're going to keep losing elections because your progressive agenda just dies right on the vine.
Are you saying that in every sport? Are you saying that in every sport? Back up. Are you saying that in every sport that women will naturally lose to men if they compete against them in every sport?
Here's what I'm saying, Mark. Okay, and they do this even in chess. Believe it or not, chess have women's division and men's division. Okay, if you want to compete in men's division and you're a woman, you're more than welcome. But if you're a man, you will not compete in a women's division. No, that's not going to happen. And if you want to, here's the answer. In chess, and this is FIDE rules. Too bad, so sad, goodbye. Should be the same rules in NCAA sports. Unfortunately, that's not the case. That's not the case. That liberal, crazy Stephen King state of Maine who thinks it's okay to do it, and it's not okay. You know, and they say, well, you're depriving us. You're not depriving you of anything. I'm asthmatic. I couldn't compete. I can't say, well, I should compete against women because I'm asthmatic. No. If you got some problems, then that's your problem. Go compete in your own division. But please don't parade them around in front of women's sports and expect the United States of America, nearly 70%, to say, oh, that's a great woke agenda. It's not a great woke agenda. And you guys will continue losing elections if you keep doing stuff like that. But go on, Jacoby. Tell us how great it is to have men compete in women's sports.
Men aren't competing in women's sports. On top of that, that is an issue that you're making an issue. Nobody else is really making it an issue. When you even talk about Maine, do you know how many? Well, Rick, back me up. How many NCAA athletes are transgender?
There are 50,000 NCAA athletes competing. 4 of them are competitive level trans athletes. That is, 1 out of 10,000 is a trans athlete who has a chance of like placing in the top 3 in their event. You have another 5 who are shitty at their sports and have no chance of winning their events. So what needs to be done, if it weren't so politicized, is you take a look at the 4 athletes who are competitive and you decide, is there a competitive level because they're good at their sport or because they started off as male? And then you make individual rulings for each of them. Or maybe you're just unfair, just 4 people, and remove it as a political issue. And
they can compete in the men's sport division, and then it's gone. This whole thing will go away. Stop trying to ram trans through the United States of America.
Let me finish my point. You're saying the same redundant thing. Let me finish my point. So, real quick. So, now, Rick just pointed out that there are 9 athletes out of 50,000. There are 4 that are competitive, that are 5 that are not. It sounds like that there's a greater percentage of you not being competitive. 4 is less than 5.
Well, no, most athletes, regardless of, aren't competitive. Most athletes go out there and they fucking compete, and they have no chance of beating, these super elite, highly gifted, hardworking,
Exactly. And so then if you take a look at the actual rules that are actually in the NCAA tournament, in the NCAA bylaws, you do actually have to follow those rules. They are set by the same Olympic standards.
Let me make a new point. It's unfair that 330 million Americans have to have a shitty president for 4 years because we're worked up about 4 competitive trans athletes. If we have to talk about fairness, we might have to be unfair to those 4 athletes and say, sorry, we just, it's too political. You can't compete because it's making us lose elections to idiots.
What a great idea. It only affects 4 people. Tell them they can't play.
Hold on a second. I have some shocking. Hold on. I have some shocking news for y'all. Nick, hold on a second. I have some shocking news for you. Hold on a second. I have some shocking news for you and for Jacoby, because I just found this out and I did not know this. But apparently, who is more successful in ultra sports?
In ultra sports?
You mean sports where you run 100 miles in 3 days?
Yeah, men or women?
Well, I guess you're going to make, since you're bringing it up, I guess it's women. Yes. Ultra sports is this extra crazy thing where you run like 3 marathons in a row or something. But apparently
women's bodies are more efficient in ultra endurance sports. So they said thanks to estrogen, which is a woman element, but men have it as well. Women have a better oxidation rate, 50% than men, and this means that they burn fat slower than men and have a greater glycogen conservation, so they have reduced inflammation and muscle damage, allowing them to recover more quickly from long exercise.
Right.
So actually, this is a case where, like I said, 2017, a woman won the 240-mile foot race through the Utah desert in 57 hours and 55 minutes, finishing more than 10 hours ahead of the first male competitor, and in one of the most grueling races in the UK, covering 268 miles along the Pennine Way in the dead of winter. She got first place overall, Jasmine Paris, and was well ahead of her male competitor. So I'm just pointing out that there are some sports women are actually, including some endurance sports. So women are
hold on. There's one more solution to this.
I don't want to see a man playing volleyball against a woman. Only there's 5 of them in the country. I want to see 0. Oh, when I watch women's
an
basketball, I see women's basketball, not
here's
mixed
an
basketball.
easy solution to
Yeah, just get
you've
told
got,
no.
if there's an event with a trans
Right.
athlete in it and they place or they win, give them the medal or the ribbon, and then give the female athlete the non-trans athlete who came in second, give them a gold medal too. So
Actually, a better solution, just understand the actual laws and bylaws that these people are actually adhering to and respect those, because those laws and bylaws are written in there. Right now, what we're doing is now sitting here trying to quote unquote protect women, but take away all their rights, quote unquote protect women, but having to make them pass genitalia screenings. Just understand that people are actually adhering to these bylaws.
Yeah,
We're not
I agree with you totally. We should abide by the law, and Trump put an executive order that males should not compete in female sports. So why don't we abide by the law?
People are already adhering to these
abide by the law.
And instead of making everything,
kick those trans people out,
instead of making everything
an executive order, I agree with
issue
Kick them out.
where you're prioritizing your butthurt issue and your fears that which are unfounded, that you have no clue about. It's like saying, hey, don't go down that dark alley, even though there's nothing down that dark alley. You're scared of nothing. It's funny. This is where these talking points are so funny to me. You play the victim, but claim everybody else is a victim. That is what you
follow the law. I said follow the law and kick them out.
They are following the law.
On the same page.
There are laws and rules already.
There's an executive order that says they can't compete. Let's follow the law and kick them out. It's real simple.
That's not a law. Nick, you're a lawyer.
Executive order by the President of the United States of America.
How enforceable
law
are those laws?
of the land.
Is the executive order a law?
It's the law of the land. And when these states like Maine decide to buck
the executive order and exact law,
they will have consequences. Consequences.
Nope.
So you and I agree.
You actually came on this
law.
You came actually on this video.
We can play it out.
Hold on, you came on here one time and talked about how an executive order really isn't.
All right, well, instead of rehashing all this stuff again, we'll talk about Kash Patel, head of the FBI, showed up before the Senate, I think, or the House yesterday for a hearing where he was asked why, for the first time in the history of the FBI, they didn't have a budget ready so they can, allocate money for their. And it's like, I don't know, we'll get it when we get it. He only comes into the office 2 days a week. He hangs out in Las Vegas. He goes to sporting events. He seems to be maybe the most incompetent head of the FBI in history.
Well, speaking of incompetence and everything, and we're getting ready to wrap up and everything, what is our thoughts on, there's an agency that's been in trouble for years, but Trump did say he's going to fix the agency, and that is the whole aviation industry with air traffic controllers and all along those lines. So is this actually going to happen, and is he going to do this massive overhaul that he says he's going to do that will make it the most efficient air traffic?
No, he's been doing the opposite.
He will. Trump's done what he says he's going to do. Oh, wait, the Trump naysayers will say no.
He fired a bunch, under Doge, they fired a bunch of air traffic controllers in training. They lowered the number of air traffic controllers. In 2019, the Biden administration had this I don't know whether it was $5 billion or $25 billion bill on that to improve the air traffic control system. It was shot down by Republicans.
Again, just ask Newark. See how that's going.
He's got Sean Duffy seems to, the head of the FAA, seems to actually care about the issue, but so far he hasn't been effective in clearing up any of this mess.
Yeah, it's a big mess, that's for sure. There's a big mess there. And all along those lines, it's about time to wrap up this particular show. And we'll be back next week with more exciting conversations and all along those lines. But definitely another fun and lively discussion. So we'll get ready to get on out of here and be back with more discussions next week. But we do have the, and it was pre-recorded, but we do have the Hungary-Russia show coming up next.